Hi everybody, Tim Kraus here. Middle of August, we're doing another video today called Back to Basics, the 7 Church Ages. I sort of telegraphed this in my last video. What we're doing is we're starting to take a look at some fundamental doctrines that are important to the message. In this particular case, we're talking about the 7 Church Ages. We're going to use the same methodology we normally use, Isaiah 28, chapter 10, for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, and here a little, there a little. Then 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. Now, we want to understand what church ages are. Fundamentally, we have to know what that is, okay? Church ages, there are lots of contexts for that, and we'll talk about those contexts, but church ages in any contexts are man-made designations or constructs or logical breakpoints which are used to describe overarching biblical themes in biblical history. Okay? So let's take a look at what that looks like. This is a widely accepted paradigm for church ages. This comes from compellingtruth.org. When you study Scripture, when you go to seminary and you study Scripture, you basically break Scripture down into different chunks from Genesis all the way to what we have now through the rapture and the return of Jesus Christ. Okay? So this is how we break it down. This is how, and this is widely accepted doxology. Okay? We have the age of innocence, which is from creation to the fall of man, the age of conscience, the fall of man to the flood, the age of human governance, which is the flood to the call of Abraham, the age of promise, the call of Abraham to the law of Moses, age of the law, which is the law of Moses to the Apostle Paul, Acts chapter 2, give or take, age of grace, Acts chapter 2 to the rapture, and then the age of the millennium, rapture to the return of Christ. Then there were those who created their own dispensations for their own church ages. Now I left you a link or an article up here specifically about Scofield. He was one that Branham liked, and he really talked about, he was one of the first that actually associated the church ages starting at Acts chapter 2 and moving forward. Well, in his case, Acts chapter 1 moving forward. And I left you a quote here. Take a look at that quote, and he'll tell you that he believes that not breaking this up, not understanding what the dispensations were, served to get the whole church off course. Okay, but his dispensations were dramatically different than what are usually accepted. And I'm putting up here now his doxology or his paradigm of the church ages. We have Ephesus, persecution, Dark Ages, Reformation, Kingdom Age, and Ecclesia are the called out ones. Some key dates here. Persecution age from 96 AD to 325 AD. That's the Council of Nicaea. And so you want to take a look at that. Okay, but it starts in Acts chapter 1 in his age of Ephesus. So now Scofield died in 1921, in July 24th of 1921. He followed the teachings of other folks like Darby and Anderson. Anderson was a very conservative firebrand type preacher. Others follow Scofield, like Stanford's, Reary, Walvoord, Bach, and Blazing. I've left an article up here for you that takes a look at all of those. Darby wrote about his version of dispensationalist in what's called the Collective Writings of J.N. Darby. Between 1866 and 1881, he published 2 volumes a year. It's in 32 volumes. So, but 1886 is widely considered the date of the origin of dispensational doctrine. Again, that's a human man-made construct. Church age, okay? Dispensationalism. Now, in 1918, after 30 years of study, Clarence Larkin defined the church ages. He's the first one who actually put the church ages and associated them with a physical church in Asia out of the book of Revelations. Larkin says Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, Laodicea. These should look very, very similar to you if you're a Branham message believer. And I left you the article up here for the Believe the Signs, the links. By the way, all the links that you'll find for the study guide. Any of the links will be available so that you can go out and study this or take a look at it for yourself. But there are some key things of note here. Then William Branham comes along. And William Branham starts to talk about church ages. And his are slightly different. Let's take a look at William Branham's. You'll notice that Ephesus starts differently. They're the very same church ages, very, very, very similar dates. So what are the differences between Larkin and Branham? Well, in the Ephesus church age, Larkin starts his at 70 A.D., Branham starts his at 52 A.D. Why would that be? We're going to take a look at that here in just a little bit. In the Philadelphia church age, Larkin ends his at 1900, Branham ends his at 1906. Laodicean church age, Larkin starts that in 1900, Branham starts the Laodicean church age in 1906. Why is that important? If you take a look at the birth dates on any of the Branham public documents, and he tells you in his sermons, he was either born in 1907 or 1909, depending upon which date you kind of like to pick. Best case, worst case scenario for whatever it is you're trying to demonstrate, whatever it is. There are other birth dates for Branham too, but it's telling that he says that 1906 here is the start, because here we got William Branham pointing to himself as being in that church age and drawing attention to the time around his birth date here. Now, did William Branham plagiarize Clarence Larkin? I'm going to let you decide. That's a discussion for a whole separate video, and there have been videos done on that previously. But I'm going to introduce a book to you. If you don't already know about this, it's from Smalls, a guy by the name of Kevin Smalls. It's called Investigating William Branham: The Unfolding Stories of Plagiarism and Errors. I left you a link on Amazon where you can go ahead and order the book. You decide for yourself. But it's a pretty compelling read. You should take a look. So do the names of the ages defined by Larkin look similar? Well, they should, because here we have the first chapter of Revelation, verse 10 through 11. Okay? I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as a trumpet saying, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. And what thou seest, write in a book and send it to the 7 church ages which are in Asia, unto Ephesus, unto Smyrna, unto Pergamos, unto Thyatira, and unto Sardis, and unto Philadelphia, and unto Laodicea. So that's where we get Larkin's and subsequently Branham's definitions of the church ages. Now in Scripture, in the book of Revelation, are these things defined as church ages? Are there any church ages defined in the book of Revelation? The short answer is no. There aren't any. So where did Branham get his particular brand of dispensationalism? Well, we have Larkin. We just showed that to you. Also, Alexander Dowie is a good model for William Branham. If you take a look, they're very similar. He's also got lots and lots of really cool drawings. But how do we know that John the Revelator did not write to the 7 church ages, but instead the 7 churches which are in Asia? Let's take a look. Here we have Revelations chapter 1, verse 17 through 19. When I saw him, I fell at his feet like a dead man. He laid his right hand on me and said, Don't be afraid. I'm the first and the last and the living one. I was dead, but look, I'm alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. Now this is key. Verse 19. Therefore write what you have seen, what is, and what will take place after this. So we have 3 time period about which John the Revelator writes. He's instructed to write about 3 separate time periods. What you've seen, past tense, what is, present tense, and what will take place after this, future tense. That's the prophetic beginning of the book of Revelation. So what happens when? If you take a look at Revelation chapter 2 and 3, those are the letters that John the Revelator is instructed by Jesus to write to the 7 churches which are in Asia. Present tense, to John's time on the Isle of Patmos. They are in Asia. Present tense. Remember those 3 timelines. Past tense, present tense, are, future tense, prophetic. Okay? How about the prophetic? When does it actually start? Well, we have chapters 2 and 3, which are in the present tense. Those are the churches that he writes the letters to. Here we have Revelation chapter 4, verse 1. After this I looked, and there in heaven was an open door. The first voice that I had heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." This is the first mention of anything in future tense or prophetic in the book of Revelation. That's how we can be certain that the letters that John wrote to the physical churches which are in Asia present tense, and now we have the prophetic or the future tense. There are lots of errors that William Branham made when he talked about his messages or his church age and the messenger. I've given you a really good article up here on Believe the Sign. It's well researched and it's well developed, but there are lots. But I'm going to refer you to the web page for those because it's really well researched. It's well thought. But here are some important points that you might want to think about. John the Revelator was exiled to the island of Patmos, where Jesus came to him, and he wrote the book of Revelation during the reign of the Emperor Domitian, who ruled from 81 AD to 96 AD. According to William Branham's view of the church ages, the Apostle Paul was the messenger of the age of Ephesus, which began in 52 AD and ended in 170 AD. Interesting to note that Larkin claims that the age of Ephesus began at 70 AD and ended in 170 AD. Why is it interesting? Well, because the Apostle Paul died, it's somewhere between 64 and 65 AD. 62 to 65 AD. Closest we can come, 64 to 65 AD. Best estimate, it's not well documented when he died, but that's based on the things that were happening around him at the time of his death in Rome. We can pretty narrowly put it down to between 62, let's say, and 65. Here's the challenge. If John, and I wonder if you noticed the challenge, if John the Revelator was on Patmos starting at 81 AD, and he was instructed to write to the messenger of the church ages in about 92 AD, wait for it, Paul died in 64 to 65 AD. Jesus told John to write the letter to a dead guy. Oops. Who didn't get the memo? No wonder Branham changed his start date to the age of Ephesus from 52 AD, or Paul wouldn't have even been alive in order to be the first church age messenger. So there are some other issues as it relates to the church ages as William Branham described them. In one sermon in 1963, William Branham comes out and he describes all of the church age messengers as prophets. They are prophets. And he got that special revelation now from God. In that sermon, he tells us this is a special revelation from God. An angel came in and he drew all of this diagram on the wall of the Branham tabernacle. They're prophets. Less than a week later, William Branham preaches a sermon and says, no, they're not prophets except the last one, which is me. I'm the last one. I'm a prophet. All the rest of them were reformers. Isn't that interesting? But he points to himself as a prophet. He also tells us that an angel drew the church age diagram on the wall of the Branham tabernacle. You should go look at the Larkin book and take a look at those diagrams. He did a lot of them. Branham tells us that the 7 church ages were his special revelation directly from God. So if it's a special revelation directly from God to anybody, why isn't this Larkin's church age messages? Columba, the messenger of the Thyatira church age, wasn't even alive during his church age. His church age went from 606 AD but Columba died in 597 AD. There's an article that I put up here about the life of St. Columba. By the way, he's a Catholic priest. It's interesting that a Catholic priest is a church age messenger. We'll let that sit. Take a look at the Believe the Sign article for more information about it. And again, I've left the article link up here as well. You'll see it down in the description too. So everything about the message hinges on the church ages, because William Branham proclaimed himself as the 7th church age prophet messenger. If there aren't any church ages, who is William Branham? Okay, what do we conclude by all of this? First things first, dispensational is a man-made construct. It's a man-made concept created in the early 19th century. It's been modified and reworked in different types of phases throughout the years by various authors, various dispensationalism, starting with Darby, ending with Branham. I'm sure there will be others as we go through history as well. Scripture tells us that John was instructed to write to the 7 church ages, which are in Asia, in the present tense, which are in Asia, when John was exiled on the Isle of Patmos. Chapters 2 and 3, remember, present tense. The revelation, the prophetic, the vision doesn't start until chapter 4. So we know that John wrote the letters to those which are in Asia. Okay? Remember, the prophetic vision of the book of Revelation doesn't start until chapter 4. The letters in the present tense are in chapter 2 or 3. Branham, and I'm going to be kind here, Branham borrowed Clarence Larkin's version of dispensationalism with modifications to point himself as the present church age prophet messenger. Now, the first messenger, according to Branham, wasn't even alive when John wrote to the messengers, which we find kind of odd. Columba, the Catholic, the messenger for the fourth church age, died prior to the beginning of his age. And our last conclusion, last but not least, we take this admonition of the book of Revelation very, very seriously. Revelation chapter 22, verses 18 and 19. I testify to everyone who hears the prophetic words of this book, if anyone adds to them, God will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. And if anyone takes away from the words of the prophetic book, God will take away his share of the tree of life and the holy city written in this book. Now, look, if you take anything away from this video, take this admonition away with you, okay? My absolute is the Holy Scripture. It is not the sermons and the message of William Branham. So I take a look at this, and I take this very seriously. Now, if you're a message believer who follows William Branham and can afford to blow this off, good for you. But the word age and the word ages are not in the book of Revelations. They are addition to the book of Revelations, okay? And that's a very serious issue. But again, hey, if you can afford to blow it off because you belong to a group instead of your individual salvation, right? Good on you. Good luck with that. I take this admonition very, very seriously, and I suggest that you do the very, very same. Listen, everybody, we love you. Thanks for watching. The next video will also be a little bit of teaching. We're going to talk about some of the other things that are fundamental to Branham's doctrine. We're grateful that you give us the time to take a look at these things. Remember, if church ages don't exist as Branham described them, if dispensationalism is a man-made construct instead of being in the Bible, then who, for goodness sakes, is William Branham? We love you guys. Look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye-bye.